Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations for Teens. I would like to now welcome a new member to Love Nation, Patricia Whyte. This is actually our first time meeting, our first time talking. So this is the first time I'm coming in not really knowing too much about who I'm meeting with, which I like. Because now I can get to know you, and so can everybody else out there.
All right.
So welcome
Thank
to
you.
Love Nation.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about you personally first. We don't want to know too much about other stuff yet, but
Okay.
like where are you from, family, stuff like that?
So I'm from Cape Breton Island originally. I have 5 brothers and sisters.
Oh goodness.
Kind of new to the Dartmouth, Halifax area. I've been here for about a year and a half. I was in Saskatoon for about 10 years. And then, so I've been working for the Elizabeth Fry Society as the Indigenous Peer Support Worker since last May. So it'll be coming up to a year. It's pretty exciting. I'm also in school at Mount St. Vincent. I was working towards a law degree. Switched that. I fell in love with psychology.
See, I always wanted to take psychology, and then I was like, I don't want to go back to school full time.
It's so hard, though. I've been at a school for so long, and now it's like papers and assignments, and it's like...
I feel like that's just school. We go to school, and we're like, I don't want to do it.
I'm like, I hate it. I'm not even going to lie.
It's like, can I learn stuff without having to do stuff?
Thank
like,
you.
Is there a simple way to do this?
No, there's not.
Yes, there is. By just doing it.
Is that easy, though?
I mean... I guess you have a point. You do have a point there.
All right.
Okay, so I want to know a little bit more about how you got into being involved with the Elizabeth Fry Society. You do have a past there, so...
I definitely have a past there. Like I said, I did live in Saskatoon for about 10 years. I was actually moved out there with my ex, and we had separated, and I went to Saskatoon from a little town called Kindersley, about 2 hours away. So I moved there by myself. I just felt like, now looking back and being educated on like what trauma does to you and, poor emotions management. At the time, I didn't know any of that stuff. So I quickly surrounded myself with people. I don't want to say like the bad crowd. I would probably say like people that were hurting like me. So within a year of me being there, I ended up picking up some pretty heavy charges and getting sentenced to 4 years in a federal institution. So I started my sentence out west.
Do you feel that was a fair sentence?
No, absolutely 100% not, considering it was my first offense of my life. I never had a youth record. I never had a speeding ticket.
Oh, wow.
I feel like why I got it so hard is because I didn't give up the identity of the other 2 people that were with me. So my lawyer told me that specifically. That's why I got such a rough sentence. So I took it. It is what it is. Did I get a dollar card from the people that I took the sentence for? Of course not. But I took it. It's my personal standards, I guess you could say.
Personal moral?
Definitely. If I went back, if I could do it all over again, I'd do it the exact same way. I don't have any regrets on that, for sure. I don't. That's just who I am, I think, as a person and how I was brought up.
But could you really have regrets on choices you made that made you who you are now?
I really, honest to God, Shawntay, like I can sit here and be like, and pretend, but I feel like super blessed on my road on how it went for me, if that makes sense. I wouldn't have learned about my spirituality for one. Like I grew up without my mother who's Mi'kmaq, right? So my father who's white, he never knew how to teach me about my traditional stuff, my medicines.
Well, if he doesn't know, he can't teach you what he doesn't
100%.
know. 100%.
That man is a saint.
Yeah.
And I get so emotional even because he's up here actually living with me now. So it's like I was separated from him for so long. So for me to have that relationship again, it's huge. And it's like, I love him so much. And he's such a good, he's like my team member, man. I love him.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. My biological father, he's been incarcerated majority of my life in and out. And we reconnected and bonded. And I was just like, I want to be there for you as much as I can. And that was like when he was incarcerated. And now he's out and he's doing great.
Do you guys have a really good bond now?
No.
But at least you tried though, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, I'm still willing to try. I would never give up on somebody who's healing.
Beautiful. That's so good, especially with him being in like that. People don't realize, what it's like to wait for mail every day in jail and not get anything, especially from, your family and the ones that matter, right? And it's like you waiting and you don't get anything. It's kind of hurtful, Yeah,
that's another thing I wanted to ask. Like, I know, like, growing up in the communities that we grow up in,
right.
Like, a lot of our people get locked up for honestly stupid reasons that they just shouldn't.
Absolutely.
And I've been in the position where I was 16 years old and a close friend of mine was gone one day because he got arrested for something that he did. And then I had no idea how to like support them and be there for them.
Right.
But now that I'm older, I know because of my own experiences.
Right.
But I've never been incarcerated myself. I've never been in that position to feel like I'm so alone. So coming from there, if you could say like 3 main things that would have gotten you through so much better and so much easier when you were in, what would it be?
I think for myself, I kind of like hurt my own self because I never called anybody. I completely just felt like, do your own time. This is my life now for however long my parole is coming.
Yeah.
I can't, so it was hard for me to pick up the phone and be like, oh, what's going on out there? Because you can't live on the streets too, right? You just can't do it. It's just, you have to do your own time in there.
Yeah.
But the letters is the most important thing somebody can do for you while you're inside. Pictures, that it just
Like
feels
keeping you updated.
right. Like life goes on, right?
Yeah.
It's like a whole nother world when you get out. People change, they grow up. Kids are grown-ups now, you know what I mean? So it's, yeah, keeping them updated is probably the number one thing. And probably doing your time is like, just don't get in trouble. Play some cards.
How do you not become institutionalized by that?
Oh gosh, I don't even think that's a possibility. Like for myself, like when I first got out, I went to Holly House. After the halfway house, Emma had mentioned to me, Patricia, I think it'd be a good idea for you to come to Holly House for a few months.
Do you want to explain what Holly House is for people
So
who
Holly
may not know
House
what it is?
is ran by the Elizabeth Fry Society of Mainland. It's 10 bedrooms right now. We just converted the other 2 that were offices into bedrooms. So we have an emergency bed. If anybody's, we have a gate bed that's for young girls that are at risk for human trafficking or sexual exploitation. And then we have TA beds. We're hoping to get a CSC contract right now where we can get some federal women out. And then we also have Queen Street location now where it's the offices, and we also have, it's renovating into apartments. So 2 of the women are going to be moving down there. So it's pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
What are the resources that you were given by going? Like you were suggested to go there.
Right. Oh
what
my
was
gosh.
the benefit?
The benefits, you have like, your employment, that they have like abundance, so they can teach you, your resume building skills. Fortunately for me, I was always employable and I always had my education. So I was like, not that I didn't need it, but there's girls that get out that don't know how to write a resume. So we have that. We have like, addictions counselors right on hand. We have our own family doctor right on hand. We have food bank every Thursday. We have such a variety of things for these women. They go for walks. They do like swimming. You go to the gym. We hire a private boxing class every second Friday for these women. So it's quite a bit of stuff for sure.
And a lot of stuff, but a lot of stuff is needed.
Definitely, 100%.
And with that, like when you're coming out from being incarcerated, like what are the things that you wish you would have had when you were in to help you come back and be as normal as you could be and reintegrate into being in with your family and being in like society itself?
Explain something to you. You're inside, right? You, especially as an Aboriginal, you have an elder, right? You get your medicines whenever you need your medicines. You get to sweat when there's sweats, and that's on a regular basis. You have that one-on-one comfort conversations with your elder. So then you get out, you have a white parole officer, you have white halfway house staff, you have a white program facilitator, you don't have access to medicines, you don't have access to sweats because you need a travel pass to go to a sweat, which are normally in Millbrook, Truro.
Yeah.
You don't have funding because you don't have a job yet because you're on curfew. So that's why the majority of women want to stay in there till they're stat. They don't want to go for parole. For what? To go to a halfway house where they don't have those resources. They can stay inside and get to sweat whenever they want. They get to, have their medicines. So that's the majority of why women stay in there as long as they can, as sad as that is.
And when you first got out and you were looking for employment, was it hard for you to find anything? Like, if it wasn't hard for you, was it hard for anybody else that was around you at the time?
Definitely. It was hard because I think a lot of people too, like they forget what it's like, right, before you have that criminal record. So like some of these women had really good jobs, but they can't get those jobs anymore. So for me, I was humble enough that I went and worked at the Dollarama. I didn't care. Like wherever I could get a job, you know what I mean?
Money is money and income is
100%.
income at that point, yep.
So a lot of women are too like embarrassed to do that. They don't want to work there, right? So it's like, but you do got the criminal record that it's hard, especially now with COVID, it's extremely hard, definitely.
And so in that situation where like barriers just seem to want to rack up after you make this one bad decision, even if you didn't make the bad decision, it's a choice or a situation where it was wrong place, wrong time, but still you have the consequences of it. So what is something that the people who are dealing with that can remember as they go through the journey of, one, trying to recover from dealing with the trauma of being incarcerated, but also now dealing with the trauma of unable to get employment. Like,
Right.
how can you help someone in that situation?
You know, luckily for us, we have like a lot of our staff do help them like one-on-one get that job. We have a lot of good connections now. Like we have a lot of different programs now that are out there that'll help women who specifically have the criminal records where they can go into the trades and stuff at NSCC.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, I got out on a Section 84. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's made for Aboriginal people so they can actually go to their communities and the reserves to serve their sentences out. My mother's reserve is in Newfoundland, so fortunately for me, the Friendship Center is considered one of the reserves, and they supported my release. So right now, the Friendship Center, with my criminal record, paid for my first year of the Mount for me, textbooks and everything included. So there are opportunities and there are services out there, right? We do have a lot of like good wraparound services. For myself, though, I think, Shawntay, is that I can articulate some things, you know what I mean? And I can speak for myself and advocate for myself. But you have a lot of women that can't do that. They've, experienced so much trauma. They don't really know how to speak and articulate that to somebody. So then what happens, right, is they'll go right back into addictions, into homelessness happens, and that cycle starts all over again when they're going back to jail. So how do we stop that, right?
That snowball effect. And then, in my opinion, when you look at it, it's all about support. And
100%. You're
support
totally
that
right.
looks like you at the same time. And we can go out and walk down the street and you can see that not everybody is going to look like us, but the majority of it, and I hate to say it, our city is all white people. Like we have a lot of Indigenous and Black people and newcomers, and it's great. But in places where it makes the biggest impact and can push you so much further than holding you back, there's no representation.
100%. You're so right. Like even now, if I'm walking in the street and I see like another Native person, I'm like, because you just want to say hi, right?
It's like, hey, we're the same. Like, I feel you. Yep. I definitely feel that when I go into a room, and I even said this earlier when I was at work, I was like, walk into a room, I'm going to gravitate towards either the Indigenous or Black people. Right. Because those are the people that look like me. And then if I see a group of white people, I'm going to be like, yeah, y'all can stay over there. It's not that I don't like you. It's just that right now I can't, the energy just not, it's not there. The energy, right. Like your vibe is not up at the same vibration as me. And we not here. We here. So I definitely agree with that. Right. And I feel like that in itself, when we saying that there's no representation, and me, someone who hasn't, I can't say I haven't had to go through that system. When I was younger, I did kind of catch something when I was a youth.
Did that scare you? Did it scare you straight?
No, it made me mad.
Okay.
It pissed me off.
Okay.
Because it was one of those situations where I shouldn't have gotten, I went through restorative justice, great. But the situation that I was put in and the actions of another person, which caused the reaction of my emotions to go where they were, which were already unstable. I was 15, 16 years old, unstable teenager, just moved from home and just dealing with stuff. And a white woman, surprisingly enough, decided to turn around and feel that she was threatened by me because she was the one that disrespected me. And within the disrespect, when you're disrespected, the first thing you do is defend yourself. 100%. You're going to protect yourself by any means. And if that even means expressing the fact that I was able to calm myself down, but you made me so mad that this could have happened, that's not a threat to you. That's a letting you know that I am now to the point where I can come and explain myself. But then you're going to turn around and say, nope, it was a threat. No, it was this. No, I had to fear. And now that I look at, not even now that I look at it, when I was younger, my first thought was, it's 100% because I am Black and Native.
Did you feel that though? You
immediately.
That's
immediately. I'm I'm in a situation where there's so many factors built up against me right now. And you're taking advantage of that. And you can see that.
It's a terrible feeling.
And at that time when we say we got to be there for people who are healing, I was broken then. I was that little tiny mold that just happened to crack and will not hold anything.
So sad, Shawntay.
Yeah, and the woman that ended up charging me, first of all, you were supposed to be somebody I could trust. Is what it was. And then it ended up turning around and your automatic thought was, now I can't trust anyone. You're supposed to be someone I can talk to about anything.
So sad.
But now I can't even go to the one person that's a confidant in the city that I'm not used to. And that just kind of ruined everything. And then after that, I refused to see psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, everything.
Why would you?
And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, the supports that should have been put in place at that time and the things that should have happened that didn't, that was a thing. And then the actual going to court and like the judge, he didn't know who I was, just saw that I had a charge. Only one, first charge I ever had in my life. And he looked at me and said, you need to sit down and shut up. And I'm like, I didn't say. I walked up to the podium. I said, hi. And that's it. Like, you don't want me to use manners? You don't want me to speak? Okay, cool. I'll be an ass.
Just sit here and look pretty.
Yeah, I'll be an ass. Cool. It's like, you're the reason why I'm going to probably reoffend, just letting you know.
If I could add to that, it reminded me of something that, we take these Indigenous and the African Nova Scotian women, and they traumatize them by putting them, right, in front of a judge, in front of court. Then they traumatize them some more by going through a prelim and a trial. Then, of course, they're going to be terribly traumatized when they get sent to prison, right? And then they get out and they'll say, did you learn your lesson? Like, of course you didn't learn your lesson, right?
You traumatized me.
Absolutely.
You scarred me.
And then wonder why, like, in the Indigenous communities, women are the most powerful, right? And the most, so when they're full of trauma like that, they can't be resilient,
right? If we're
right?
going to be honest, in more than just the Indigenous community, I mean, women rule the world, so, like, I'm
future
sorry,
is
men.
The
I'm
future
sorry.
is female. The future is female.
Y'all cannot create life. We can. We rule the world at this point. I'm sorry. But, that's a thing in itself. Like, that's one thing when women are incarcerated. Like, men, they have it hard and they have it bad.
Of course.
Yes. And especially our Indigenous and Black men.
Of course.
And they get, like, the brunt of everything. But nobody ever looks at the women.
They don't.
How, like, menstrual, like, necessities aren't even there.
Absolutely.
Or if they're there, it's so minimal. And then, like, you think about our actual health and it's not attended to how it's supposed to. And we're not getting the help we need. Or the help that we need is very minimal. Or it's on a, like, tri-weekly basis.
Yeah.
Or it's just nobody wants to listen to us.
I'll tell you something. When I was in Saskatchewan in remand, I did 7 months on remand, and I was in a cell for 23 hours a day for the 7 months. So we were allowed out 1 hour a day, okay? So there was a group of the people that, I guess it was the bad kids, I guess.
Was that included for, like, shower and outside?
Right. Shower, phone, TV, outside.
An hour.
1 hour. And it was at 8 p.m. at night. So you had to wait all day like that.
Oh, okay.
So I was learning this new card game, okay? So they kept trying to put us in the shower cell to lock us in because these other girls were going to a doctor's appointment. So we said we want our 10 minutes back. Like, we only get an hour. Like, it's 10 minutes. They said, yeah, we'll give you your 10 minutes. They didn't give us the 10 minutes, and they came in with the whole goon squad and rushed us in our cells, okay? So then they come individually to all of our cells. It's like a whole hallway of cells side by side. And they said, okay, White, you're going to segregation. I'm like, I'm not going to fucking segregation.
Yeah.
Sorry for cursing. And they said, oh, yeah. I said,
We
no.
very expressive here. I'm sorry.
They said, oh, yes, you are. I said, no, I'm not. So they went to the other women that was with me in the group, said the same thing. So we all refused. So, of course, they came with the whole big squad and took us, pepper sprayed us, and took us down to segregation. So in segregation, they call it a red card. So you're on that for 6 days. You have to work your way out of it. You're stripped off. You're not allowed no panties, nothing, okay? So they put a baby doll on you that's a weighted dress. It's kind of like suicide watch, right?
Yeah.
That's all you can wear. No shoes. They don't give you blankets. You're not allowed toilet paper. You ask for toilet paper. They give you one sheet. Like, how is that humane, right? Like,
It's not.
That's not humane. That's not humane. One of the girls had started her period. So they wouldn't give her underwear. They wouldn't give her underwear. They gave her a tampon. They said, that's all you're getting.
A tampon?
A tampon.
For the day.
Yeah. And I remember sitting there thinking, this was the lowest
Toxic
point of my
shock
life
syndrome,
right here.
is that not a thing that they...
I guess not.
One for a day, 24 hours.
One tampon. That's all they would give her. And I was sitting there in my little cell, and it was like a bed. It's like almost like a canoe, because they won't give you a real bed in seg. And you're sitting there, and I'm like, this is probably the lowest motherfucking point of my life right now. That's how you know what I mean? So now what I do Not now because I'm team good kid, but when I was
When you were team bad kid?
when I was first out on parole, before I would make a decision that I knew would affect me, I would use the technique aversion, and I would go back to that moment and visualize what it was like. That was the lowest point of my life right there, and I'd say, "Yep, fuck that, team good kid, all the way."
I love that. That's perfect, and that brings me to a question that I wanted to ask you, and I'm so happy we're here.
All right.
When you're reflecting on I'll even say now, 2021, and going back over the last, I'll say 6 years.
Okay.
How do you feel you have grown, but how do you feel you have learned to grow around other people who are learning to grow?
Okay, I like that. Feel like I've grown in even like I mentioned earlier, even about I never knew what a poor emotions management was. Now I know, right? Now I know I'm impulsive. Now I know my warning signs. I mean, I can thank prison for that. Yes, that was one good thing that came out of it, is that I understand what my warning signs and stuff are. So growing out as a person, I had so much anger inside of me. I didn't know why. Like, you would just, I'm not proud to say this, but you didn't talk. You just threw hands. It's just the way it was.
Yeah, it was like you say something to me, I'm reacting. Right
Absolutely.
Away.
Now, I think before I react, right? My elder Doreen was the one that changed my whole thought process, in that I grew slowly day by day. I would never in a million years ever talk disrespectful, I don't think, to anyone again. I would never ever put my hands on anybody and use any type of violence. Like, compared to myself now, even 2 years ago. It's crazy. Another thing for me, when you were mentioning disrespect earlier, that's one of my triggers. So if I see somebody else being disrespected, that sets me off. Like, I just do not like it.
Yeah.
But now I have grown to be around people that are disrespectful, and I learned to not react to it.
But do you check them still?
I definitely check them in a very respectful way, though.
Oh, you can tell somebody to shut the hell up very nicely. With all due respect, I would like you to stop talking. And that is how you say shut the hell up. Very nicely.
Very nicely.
But no, I definitely agree. Disrespect is,
it's huge, right?
I think on everybody's list, they're like, disrespect is my number one. And I'm
oh my gosh.
Is it really? Because some of y'all will sit there and just let the disrespect happen.
Absolutely.
And I can't, I do have a trigger of disrespect, and mine is disrespect, but at the same time, I have a habit of sitting there sometimes.
How are you like, though, when somebody else... For me, it's like elderly, man. If I see somebody be like that, really
when someone else is being disrespected, I'm like, I'm like, do I want to catch a charge? Do I want to go home?
Well, that's the thing. It's like how you react, and you don't know how this person is and what their mentality is like, so they could react completely different.
Exactly.
And then you may have to defend yourself, you know what I mean?
Well, and my first thought is always and I look at people, and the only thing I judge now is how old somebody looks.
Okay.
And I'm like, if a physical altercation happens, will I get a child abuse charge? Or will I get a self-defense charge? Which one? I gotta choose wisely.
Oh my God.
And then some people look at me and they're like, aren't you still a child? Nope. Nope.
I mean, let me see those shoes right quick. What size are they?
Do we really? I mean.
They're so cute, though. What size are kids? I just need to know. Stop. Are they?
Yes, I'm
not even saying.
I wear a size 2 in kids.
You're so cute. I love them.
And that's just.
I love this interview. This is wonderful.
Well, it gotta be like this.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no. This is what we do. This is us.
Very good.
So I'm trying to look at our questions, but I know Dennis wants you to tell a little bit more about your story.
Dennis.
So, what happened in your story? How far back are you okay sharing?
I'm fine to share. I don't. How much time do we have?
35 minutes.
All right.
We got all kinds of time.
Well, I had said about moving to Saskatoon and all that, but I'll tell you a little bit about the crime. So, I was obviously involved with some people, like I said before, but so this one girl had come to me one day and said to me, Patricia, I really need your help. My sister's at this house, and it was this guy who was he was known for dangling drugs over girls that were sick. So he was like a pervert, more or less. He was known, everybody knew it.
So he was a predator.
Definitely a predator. And she had said, can you help me? I'm nervous to go. Can you come with me? It's like literally 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
no
of
harm,
course.
no foul, going to protect
No,
somebody.
of course, right? I'm already out. But before this, there was a firearm found in my apartment when I wasn't home. No one took responsibility for it, so I ended up getting charged. So I was already out on bail for this firearm. So I went with this girl, went to his house, knocked on the door. He let us in. Hi, how are you? Of course, 2 girls, whatever.
Being
Predator
nice,
style.
yep. Nice,
Until
great
we were
guy.
like, we're so-and-so. And he was saying she's not here. So I was like, fuck this. I went right up the stairs anyway. I didn't care.
It's like, she
Shut
here.
it up there to see. I don't
Yeah.
believe you. You're just a pervert, whatever. She really wasn't there. But then I hear this commotion downstairs. And it was like, so I come down the stairs and one of them has a gun pulled out. And he's freaking the fuck out. He's not even scared of this gun though. He's flipping tables over. And I'm like, all I can think about.
He's trying to get shot.
He's trying to alert the neighbors something,
He's trying to do something,
right?
yeah.
But then I happen to look up, Shawntay, there's a camera there and there's a camera there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fucked.
Mm-hmm.
So these 2 people I'm with try to go out the door. And I'm like, I'm not staying here.
Well, and at that same time, you're already caught
I'm
because
already
there's
caught.
the
I
cameras.
knew.
Like,
So this was where I
Yeah.
was at a crossroads. Do I go pull these cameras out, but I need a ladder or something?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I just run? So I chose to run. But as I'm running, he got the license plate. So we're driving. Literally the way it is in Saskatoon, it goes in blocks.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I got to my house, I was walking in the door and I noticed the patrol car and I knew they were setting up a perimeter for me. I knew I was fucked.
so
I
did
knew
you
it.
just like turn around and stay
I'll
outside?
tell you what I did, girl. I went right in that house and shut that door.
You said, I'm not coming out.
Nope. So I went down and
I do not blame you.
Nope.
Barricading
You
safety.
can Google that one time. But anyway.
You want to fact check? Fact check it. We got the facts, don't worry.
So there was people that lived upstairs. So I went up the back way and I knocked on the door. I'm like, is there cops out there? And she's like, I don't know, but my husband went out to take the garbage out and he still is in the back. Her phone rings. She picks up the phone. Yeah, this is the bomb squad. And you need to get your children and yourself out of here because we need to deal with the people downstairs. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting smoked the fuck out. All right, cool, right? Cool. But the house phone keeps ringing as she takes her children and leaves. So me and this one girl that is still with me, she's like, I'll ride it out with you. I don't care.
Oh, she's running with you.
Oh, she's riding right out
okay.
with me.
I thought
So
she
we locked
dipped
the
on
doors,
you.
and I'm like, okay. In my thinking at the time, they need 2 warrants. They get it's 2 separate dwellings, but the house phone keeps ringing and ringing and ringing, and I'm like, I'm not answering that because that's separate charges right there. That's
Yeah.
like a whole negotiation. I'm not doing it. Long story short, me and this girl fall asleep in the girl's bed after hours. Woke up to the police dogs in my apartment, and I was like, stay still. Because that's the only thing that scares me, right,
Yeah.
is the dogs.
Yeah.
So they ended up they have robots, the bomb squad, that open the doors and like blow open the doors and come in and spray you out if you don't comply. So I'm like, they got the fucking robots. Let's just go. I'm not playing. I'm not getting smoked out. So we ended up leaving. So as I was at the police station, normally they don't strip search you. You get strip searched once you get to a correctional facility. The police aren't supposed to do that. They pat you down, put you in your cell. But this police officer was saying that my bra was too tight. I'm like, I'm not taking off my bra, man.
Okay.
Not doing it.
Wait, male cop?
Male cops. And the female, the captain was a female. She's like, yeah, we'll take it off her. I'm like, you are not taking off my bra, man. And they physically, 2 male police officers held each of my arms down. They literally forcefully took off my bra. So as I got up, I spit in their face and I got assault on a police officer and I got 18 months in prison for it. But I don't care. I took that proudly. I
But at
obviously
the
did.
same time, that's like,
Yeah.
you're de-dressing somebody first.
Straight up,
Like,
you
first
don't
of
do
all,
that. Wait till I get to the correctional center. They'll do a full body examination on me, girl. Don't worry. Like,
You're like, I've been through
worried
this
about
before.
worried about a tight bra.
Yeah, like,
You know?
a tight bra means there's nothing in there. Like, you should be happy it's tight. If it was loose, I'd be wondering.
Yeah. So once I got to Edmonton, and I finally got my penitentiary sentence, and Edmonton prison's no joke, right? It's completely different from Nova. Like Nova's not. It's nothing like. Edmonton is a serious, real prison, right?
I've heard that Nova Scotia isn't like.
No.
They're just.
No.
They're lax compared to other
Oh,
provinces.
100%. 100%.
I was like, I never want to find out, but great for telling me.
Right. We have a beautiful elder at Nova, and we have a wonderful Aboriginal liaison worker that will literally fight for us tooth and nail. She's amazing. But what they don't have, though, is any African Nova Scotian supports. So how do you change that, right?
I thought they did.
No, they don't. They have nothing for African Nova Scotians there.
And
nothing.
where were you? You were at Burnside here?
No, I did on my remit at West. I did Nova and Edmonton prison. They have nothing for African Nova Scotians at all.
Wow.
Even like the Indigenous women, we have the choice between doing a mainstream program or an Indigenous style. Mm-hmm. The African Nova Scotians don't have that.
You just got to do what you got to do. And that's but that's not fair.
It's not fair. And there's not a lot of fair stuff in there.
But and that's the thing I find, and this is what irritates me. We say every action has a reaction.
Right.
Which is true. But then everybody wants to say everyone makes mistakes. But then some people make mistakes that are illegal, but for survival reasons or for protection reasons, self-defense, for all of these, like, we have our fight or flight.
You're right.
And a lot of people fight.
Absolutely.
Oh, don't forget about freeze, because some people be freezing.
Yes, you're right.
But when you got that fight, flight, or freeze, and in those situations, and when you're dealing with unemployment or about to be unemployed,
so happy you're
homelessness
saying this,
or about to be homeless.
This is why women are criminalized right here.
And especially like when you're taking care of your family, or if you're just by yourself.
Right.
And like you just gotta do what you gotta do to live. But that doesn't mean that these choices I'm making are because I want to do these bad things.
Right.
I'm doing these bad things to save myself from dying.
Absolutely.
Or from being like demonized by everybody else. Or even like from being disowned by family. Like some things it's just
you're so right.
Like you have to do so much.
You're such a smart. Well, I'm serious. I just could listen to you. You're amazing.
Thanks.
You really are super, super smart.
But yeah, I
think we have a position over at E-Fry, eh?
I'll take it. We can negotiate.
Dennis is going to try to fight me. Sorry.
We will talk.
All right.
There is enough of Shawntay Rose to go around for Halifax. There is enough of me for everybody. I mean, not really everybody. So don't get your hopes up. Don't get your thoughts, people. Only for certain people. You gotta be special.
Right. You know, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. But like, I'm just like with that. It's when I think about people's sentences and stuff. That needs to be considered.
It's crazy, and you know the thing also is it's so hard when you get out on parole too, right? So let me tell you, I get out on parole in 2018. Mm-hmm. Went to Sydney, halfway house. Elizabeth Fry runs that as well. They're amazing women down there and great staff. But I met this man who I fell so in love with, I could have crawled right under his skin.
As it always happens.
But my parole officer told me, no, he's not a guy for you because he's considered to be criminally active. Mm-hmm. So that was one of my. So I challenged her and I said to her, how is he criminally active? He works because he had a past, right? So I fought it. And I continued to see him even though I was breaching. I ended up getting sent back to the halfway house for 30 days. Mm-hmm. So I'm with my parole officer the day that she's sending me back to the halfway house, and she crashes and she picks me up in my apartment. She crashes into my neighbor's parked car. And so she says to me, that wasn't my fault, right, Patricia? That wasn't my fault.
Yes, it was.
And I'm like, no, whatever, right? Like, fuck, right?
It's like agree with her so she
just
doesn't
agree
get
with her.
mad.
Just don't take me back to the halfway house, man. Like, I have my own apartment and everything at this time,
I
right?
be home.
All over a relationship, though. Like, come on, man. So anyway.
Well, she's asking you if she did it. And she knows she did it.
So let me tell you what I did. 29 days I was in there. And then she came to me, I need to speak to Patricia alone, which is not protocol. There's always supposed to be staff in with you, right?
Yeah.
So she comes in, she says, I need you to sign this statement saying that I wasn't at fault for that accident. I said, well, until you tell me I'm getting out of the halfway house today, I ain't signing shit. So she's like, yeah, of course you are. You can get out.
I mean, negotiations
of
need to happen.
course. So she let me out. So I ended up fighting to be with him, and I ended up winning. So we ended up getting an apartment together. We went, it was Christmas Day 2019. Mm-hmm. And we're, of course, visiting all of our family. We're having Christmas whatever.
Thing, yeah.
We're probably 2 streets from our apartment, and the police pull us over, and he's out past curfew. So he ends up getting arrested. But of course, I was like, fuck the police. And they arrest me for extortion.
I think we all feel
Or not
that
extortion,
way.
obstruction of justice. So they ended up...
I'm missing something there.
Obstruction.
Why were you obstructing?
Because I was obstructing the arrest by cursing at the officer saying, fuck the police. So they hate me. But anyway, so...
I don't think... Okay.
Yeah, I got 14 days for that, for obstruction. I'll send you my paperwork later.
I would be very interested into read. Yes, that would be fun to read.
Yeah, so he said I was interfering with the arrest because I was like, well, they were being super like aggressive with him. And I'm like, why are you
There's
doing
no
that?
need,
He's like, there's no fucking need of that. Like, stop, you goof.
Was he complying?
He was complying.
So
This
they
is
were
the
just
thing. They
being
were just,
excessive
like,
for
kneeling
no
right on
reason.
his neck, on his head. And I'm like, why do that? Why would you do that?
Because they can? Or they
So
think they can?
let me tell you, they sent me back to the penitentiary. I did 9 more months. And then got out. That's when I got out to Halifax last June, right? So initially they denied me for the halfway house here. So as they lifted my suspension, but they said to me, "You're not allowed to have any contact with him." Like, it just frustrated me so much. Like this relationship that I had with him was the first non-abusive relationship of my entire life. Like,
do you find he was like a help in your healing?
100. I'm still with the man. We're planning a wedding, and I love him dearly.
Congratulations.
I love him very much. He's still incarcerated from that arrest, but you know what? Our relationship is extremely strong. He's probably the most supportive, even like in the financial way. Like, I don't have to worry about his canteen, his phones. It's none of that bullshit. It's just strictly very supportive of anything that I do. This man is. I couldn't put him on a higher pedestal.
He's
I really
your
couldn't.
person and
He's
you're
my
his.
person, 100%. I love him for sure.
And that like
I'm right
I tend to make people cry. I'm
what's up
sorry.
with that?
I should have warned you. That should be a label that comes
That's
when
the
I walk
only,
in.
the
I'm
only,
sorry.
the only moment like that in the whole interview that's done.
Well, I hope I can grab a couple
all
more.
right.
Let's see.
Let's see. Checklist.
But no, like I find relationships like that, and I mean our justice system will be like, nah, they shouldn't be around each other because they're more likely to reoffend because they're
But
both
why do they?
offenders.
Exactly.
But then when you look at it, who is going to support each other more?
Right.
The
Who
people who have been through the
understands the
same
trauma.
things, right?
Right. Thank you.
So when it comes to needing support and needing that backbone,
Right.
who is going to be there? The person
Absolutely.
that's been through the same thing, that knows
Absolutely.
what you need because they either didn't have it or they had it.
I think that's why it's so easy for me, right, Shawntay? Is because I understand where he's coming from. I
Yeah.
understand his days. I understand his frustrations. And I get it, what it's like to be in there. So it's not like, it's not hard for me. This is still the easiest relationship I've ever been in.
Well, and everybody,
that's crazy to
like,
say
I
that.
know a couple people who have partners that are incarcerated and they're like, it's hard. And I'm like, it's harder for them.
Right.
Like, you're out here living your life, making money. You have things to distract you. You have
Absolutely.
family. You have
Definitely.
friends. In there, they don't have anybody but the
Nothing.
four walls and the
Exactly.
people trying to fight them.
Especially Burnside, man. Like, they can't even
Yeah.
go outside because of COVID now, so they can't even get a jacket to go outside in all winter.
Yeah. And that itself, like, let's not start with COVID because just our jails,
Yeah, it's hard.
that's a thing in itself. And then the fact that there's so many people who are incarcerated for stupid things,
Real
like
stupid
the
stuff.
dumbest things. Now, let's talk about how people are still incarcerated for selling weed when weed is legal.
Let's not even talk about that.
Like,
That's so ridiculous to even
That's
say
the
that.
thing. Why do I don't? But yet the government is.
Because you're cutting the government's grass. You're making more money than them, you know? You're selling more.
But then, so when minimum wage isn't even enough to actually live.
Right.
Because in 2017, they said you needed a minimum of $17 an hour to live in Halifax. And that was 3 years ago, 4 years?
My gosh, what's the minimum wage right now?
It's about to go to like $12.93 or something like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's not
Because
livable
I was at the
here.
dollar store, it was like 11 something, I think.
Yeah. So
That was
it's,
the worst job of my life. My God.
do I have a worse job?
Right? Thank you. It was awful. They had me in the stationery aisle. I hated that.
Just looking at pens and paper and clips all day.
Ooh.
Never
did
wanna
not
work in
like
an
it.
office
Right in
again?
the north end of Dartmouth, too.
That's always fun. I'm not going to comment on that, but that's always fun.
You know what I'm getting at.
Oh, 100%. I know. But yeah, that's just like when it comes to support and those kind of things, we need to look at that all the time.
You know, I think what's really important, I think even my role at Elizabeth Fry is that not even cultural, you know, traditions and all that stuff. I think it was important for me when I got out, I built such an amazing community for myself with not knowing anybody. And this community that I built had no expectations of me, just to support, right? And just to be there. And I think that was the most important, right? Like my only friend was Scott from the Friendship Center. Like that was my only friendship I had.
But that's also a friend that you didn't have before.
Absolutely. And you know, with Elizabeth Fry, like I built such a wraparound, like Mi'kmaq Legal Services, like I had myself so busy, you know, even at the halfway house, my key worker was amazing to me. So that was like a relationship for me, right? So like once we have these young girls that are coming, especially through Holly House and not even Holly House, they could be coming from the community. I think we have such an amazing team of women there that have all those wraparound supports, like the education, the employment, like we all do different things. Yeah. So we help them create that community for themselves. You know what I mean, Shawntay? Yeah. So it's an amazing thing for sure.
It's community building community.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're so right.
It's like everything. It takes a village. It
Definitely.
Takes like each one teach one.
Right.
Being there for it. Yeah. And it's all of these things where if they're in place from the start.
You're right.
These things and people who are incarcerated, it wouldn't have to happen.
No, 100%.
If we look at a lot of the reasons why people are incarcerated, I mean, there's some people that just do things to do things.
Absolutely.
And I hate to say people deserve to be locked up, but some people deserve to be locked up.
Right. Everybody's opinion's different on that, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's also like, as everybody would say, it's case by case. And there are certain things that is just like, if you're that way, you need to be away from other people.
Absolutely.
So
right?
It's understandable.
Yeah,
but then
for sure.
When we have the people who are doing things because of the fight or flight or freeze, or because they feel
vulnerable,
that
the marginalized, like come on,
have a history of being hurt by people they thought they could trust. Yeah,
absolutely.
And like when we look at it, everything comes down to trauma.
Absolutely,
regardless
so right.
of what crime somebody commits, regardless of what choice it is. Your trauma and the fact that either you're in the process of healing and somebody affects that, or something happens to stop your healing and traumatize you more.
Absolutely.
And that's a reaction. Or people are not realizing that they have trauma because they're like, oh, that's nothing. I dealt with that already. But they didn't. They just pushed it back, and now it's building up and building up.
And now it's alcoholism and drug addiction, and
people are turning to using and selling to try to make a living.
Straight up.
Or they're going to sex work, or
100%.
Some people are just making choices because they want to make choices.
Right.
And then there's the people who are getting caught for stealing and being locked up for stealing.
Just trying to eat.
Literally, like the main things you need to live, like sustenance, like actually having
it's that
food.
Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah. And like if our needs are met, we're good.
Absolutely.
And if they're not met, obviously society is struggling. And why is society struggling? Because people's needs aren't met.
Right.
And those needs who are, like those people who have their needs met on a regular basis or have the means to share their needs that are met, they refuse to. They look at it as, no, this is mine. I worked for this. This is only for me.
Right.
Instead of being like, okay, I know what it's like to be there. Let me help out in whatever way I can.
If we had more of that, it would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
I mean, it would be a perfect world, but then would we really?
I will tell you one thing, though, you know, for the women that do need it, and if there was 100 Holly houses across Canada, there wouldn't be no need for prison for women. Truly believe that. I mean, the success rate that we do have right now with the women coming in, like, it's amazing stories, but it's super hard too, though, Shawntay, because it's like you get so attached to these women in a sense, right? So it's like you spend 6-7 months with them every day, bonding with them, and you know it's E-Fry, so we're not about the rules and the boundaries. And me as a peer support worker, I don't have those boundaries like a social worker, so I'll go jump right in bed with them and watch a movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You need a movie night, let's go, popcorn and everything. Yep.
And you get that relationship with them on a personal level where you buy each other birthday presents and you're like, it's just
the support that you need.
It's bittersweet. So you see them go, but you know that they're, you know, going on a good path.
Do you keep those relationships afterwards?
100%.
And
what's up, Bev? I love you.
And like speaking of that and like continuing support, there's programs out there for people who are coming out of being incarcerated, but they're temporary.
Right.
And you're building these relationships. And like here at Love, a big thing is like our people stay. Like
that's amazing.
And I've had this room of people for years.
That's amazing.
And it's amazing because it's continuity and it's just the continuum of having the love and
Right.
the support. And
That's
like,
so nice.
you're not seeing new faces, which is inconsistent.
Right.
So when it comes to adults and even youth who are incarcerated, because we need to add both of them in, because when you're a youth and you're incarcerated and you don't get any help, you become an adult that's incarcerated with no help.
Let's talk about Wood Street for a minute.
Oh, yes, please. Come on, let's talk.
Where they'll throw them in those little rooms if they try and speak Mi'kmaq. They won't let them speak their own language at all. It's disgusting,
wow.
eh? It's
I
terrible. Yeah.
Why?
They say because they don't understand them and they could be talking in code, I guess, or talking about super serious stuff, I would imagine.
Oh, so serious.
So serious. Yeah.
Plotting
Isn't that
against
disgusting?
everybody.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
plotting against people with guns and tasers and pepper spray and lockdown and just so much of a threat to all these people that have weapons that they use when they don't need to.
Yeah. Remember when you were asking me about like being institutionalized? I remember when I first got to Holly House, I was used to, for the last 4 years of my life, in prison as well as the halfway house, they open your door, your bedroom door, every hour and a half to make sure you're breathing. They shine flashlights on you and like make sure like you're moving and stuff. So when the first night I got to Holly House,
I'd be screwed. I look like I'm dead when I'm sleeping. So
me too. And they would say, "Patricia, are you all right?"
Like, don't wake me up. I'm sleeping.
So the first night I wasn't obviously in the real normal world. People don't check on you to see if you're sleeping. You're an adult, right? So I went down. I was so frustrated the first night, Shawntay. I was like falling off the bed. I was like so messed up from it, right? And I didn't realize something like that could affect me so greatly. So there was a staff named Carla. I went down and I started crying and I was like, not even because I was sad. I was just so frustrated. Like, why am I feeling like this? I feel so stupid, right?
Well, and probably at that point you're exhausted too.
100%. Just getting out, like, you know. So Carla's like, okay, let's set the alarm. I'll go and I'll check on you every hour and a half. Like, just that support that I got right from the get. She's now one of my best friends. Dearly, I love her to
That's
death.
amazing.
And she was like such a huge support for me because working night shift and stuff, but like just how it comes full circle like that for me to be a client there and now work there and be co-workers with these women that I was a client and now like being, you know, an auntie to her little daughter is like the biggest. It's just beautiful. Like, look,
Well,
right?
yeah,
La, number two.
That's what I do. No, that's great because then like those are lifelong bonds,
Right.
and those are people. I once heard that the relationships you make when you're an adult are more secure than the ones when you're a child.
Definitely.
And I'm starting to learn that it's because as an adult, we go through some shit that nobody knows about.
Right.
And it's like, it's crazy. And
Right.
it feels like boulders are on top of us.
Absolutely.
And that actually brings me to a question that just popped in my head when you were talking.
All right.
Mentally, like, people change when they go in. And we all know that they do because we've all seen it.
Right.
But mentally, your mental health, how did that change from being out, being in, being out, being in?
It's like you're always on eggshells, I guess. But another thing too, like that comes to mind when you asked me that was you have like a reputation. Once you go in there, you can be whoever you want to be. The first day you go into prison, it's like high school, right? You could be the tough girl, you could be the quiet one, mind your business. But if you get a reputation like for like being aggressive or fighting, you have to always keep that reputation up. Do you know how exhausting that is every day?
Because if you let your guard down, someone's gonna get you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's like an everyday thing, right? So
Sounds like high school.
it is. So then, well, Nova, it's definitely like high school. So once you get out and then, you know, you start to like, the first time I got out, I wasn't institutionalized at all. And that was my longest time that I was in was 2.5 straight. And I wasn't institutionalized at all. I was like, awesome, smoking cigarettes, living my best life. And then when I did the 9 months though, that's when it really, really mentally, I don't know what it was, but I experienced a lot of different, like, it was really hard for me the second time, but I made it really hard for myself as well. They would put me in maximum security. I was in there for a while. I was going to be transferred to another institution. It was like, I made it extremely, extremely hard for myself in a lot of ways, but in other ways too. I think I fought back and advocated for myself and then I got a hate on. You know what I'm trying to say? So sometimes I look at it like, did I make it hard for myself or did I just stand up for myself?
Well,
as
it's
a
like,
human being.
did I make it hard or did I protect myself?
Thank you.
Because and that's another thing. A lot of people are like, oh, you make it hard for yourself. I'm not making it hard. I'm making it easier.
Right.
And to
Weed
you,
out, only the strong will survive, girl.
and to you, it's like, I got to do what I got to do.
Right.
You don't know what I have to do because you don't know what's going on here.
Right.
And that, I think, is a huge thing. I wanted to ask a question, but we don't got time for it.
Okay.
I want to see if you can answer this question in like 30 seconds.
Okay.
I know we have 10 minutes. That's why I said 30 seconds. When it comes to cases and people being arrested and tried and all these other things, what is the biggest thing that should be considered from lawyers, judges, cops, everything in between that's going to deal with the inmate, I hate that term.
I know.
But deal with that person who's dealing with those things. What should they consider?
I will speak from a woman's point of view. I think they need to consider, like we just did, I was mentioning to Dennis about, we just did a thing with Josie McKinney, and I did a training with, it was like 100 police officers and prosecutors, and I said, like, these women, how did they get there? Look beyond the paper, right? Mm-hmm. Look to see why they're here, right?
It's kind of like when you have youth going to social workers. We're not our portfolios.
Is there another way that you're not going to inflict more trauma onto her by sending her to jail?
Yeah.
Is there other ways you can prevent it? We had a Crown call us, and it was actually beautiful because they called us before. Mm-hmm. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, to try to intervene kind of thing?
Yeah.
You know, like, why
like
can't
preventative,
you get to that?
yeah.
Right, like, where is that at? Well, instead of adding more trauma.
With that, at the same time, like, I know all kinds of things about restorative justice, and like I said, I went through it when I was a youth. But I know that they're trying to incorporate it better within adult incarceration and those rates. So do you think that people having more than one chance at restorative justice would be good? Do you think restorative justice is useful? Like,
I do. We have right now like a record suspension program at EFI every Friday as well. Mm-hmm. But with the restorative justice, I feel like people are going to mess up more than once. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that they do need a criminal record. Like, it really affects somebody.
Well, and when life goes good, it can easily go bad real quick.
Absolutely. And, you know, you got some other people that do have like really good personal standards and beliefs that they don't want to tell on people and don't want to, you know, tell what people done. So you ended up taking the heat. Like, is that fair to somebody to kind of, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it's not. It's you're telling someone to go against their moral and who they are, and those things, and like our reactions and our choices, they're hardwired into us.
Traumatize them more.
Yeah, and they're hardwired into us because as we are created and evolved as we get older, we're learning these things. We're gaining these traits. We're gaining these thought processes and like these insights on different things.
Right.
And we're using that to make our choices. We're using that to act on things that aren't right. We're using that to take everything that's wrong and trying to make it right.
You're so right.
And sometimes you do a wrong thing trying to make things right.
Absolutely.
And that's just a mistake. And some people don't fully understand that this is really a bad decision. Mm-hmm. And with restorative justice, I find that helps teach people and remind people that
it dummies them up.
Yeah. It's like the simplest thing. It's like, no, this is bad.
Right.
And this is good.
Right.
But we're going to help you because we know that the bad is easier sometimes.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think that if that was like the step that we took to every person that got into trouble, it would be a different situation than being like, you're bad, you're no good, you're going to reoffend, you're not going to be good for society. Because automatically, like, we say what you tell children is what they become.
Right.
What you tell yourself is what you become.
So right.
But you have people who are supposed to be controlling your life right now, and they're telling you you're not going to turn into anything but a criminal. So
so true. Even like when you're in jail, they put you in this little rat race, right? Mm-hmm. And they scrutinize you and they test you. And oh, you're mad? Oh, you need a program for that. Oh, you don't want to do the program? Well, you're not getting parole. You're disrespectful.
So with that. A lot of people think when they become incarcerated that they failed.
Right.
Do you believe that one, is true? And two, do you believe that failure is something that you should label as failure or just wrong decisions, things you did on a whim? Like, what?
I know for the first one I don't agree, but for the second part, I hold my failures super proudly. I'm not, anybody that knows me, I'll own my shit. And I'll
But
tell
do
you
you
right to
think
your
that they're
face.
failures though? Or do you just
I don't
think it's
think that
part of
they're
your story that makes you?
I don't know necessarily. I've never really looked at it like that. Like for myself, I wouldn't even care to call it a failure, but it is a part of my story. And everybody fucks up, and it's life. Just some people are too scared to say it, right?
Yeah.
Not me.
And on the opposite side of that, like success.
Okay.
Like, one, what does success look like to you?
Okay.
But then also, do you feel that now where you are you successful? And to take it a little bit deeper, when you think in the moment,
Break it down, girl.
do you think you have reached success to this point? Like, if something were to happen where tomorrow you're no longer here,
Right.
have you succeeded to your most and highest ability?
If I do 3 more of these interviews, I will be at my top.
I got you, girl.
I do feel like I am successful. Okay, ask me the first one again. I got a little messed up. One at a time. Come on.
What does success mean to you?
Success means to me, I think, is setting little goals for yourself. Doesn't matter what it is. If you feel like you're successful in doing that, as long as you try, I think that's successful.
I feel like in that sense, I like that I kind of brought up the mental health aspect of
Right.
it. And as we were talking earlier before we came and sat down, like around this time there's a
Yes.
high rate for people
Right.
not wanting to continue
Right.
on.
Right.
And with that, like thinking of success, I'm like, as someone who's dealing with that and has been to that point and been on the edge of not wanting to be around, like, if you get up and you brush your teeth and shower,
Absolutely.
you succeeded. Honey,
You get up
a
and
gold
watch that
star for
Netflix
that
all
day.
day. I'm
Yeah.
hooked on Vampire Diaries right now. Thanks, Donna.
I miss Vampire Diaries. Is it back on Netflix?
Yes. No, Amazon Prime. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'll
don't-
give you my password, girl. Go ahead.
we can share it? Okay, I got you.
I got craved too.
We got each other email.
All
I
right, all
got
right.
you. I'll give you my number when we're done. But it's a thing. Like, if
Yeah.
we're gonna be completely honest, like the
Yes.
simple thing of
It's all right over there.
oh yeah, he's great. He's fine. Let him be. He'll live. He does this every time.
All right.
When we think about those kind of things, like simple things, like, yeah, you got up and you moved from your bed to the
Absolutely.
couch. You succeeded.
Definitely, I agree. Any little thing that you feel is just a little success to you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I love that.
And then also you feel like you are successful now?
I do feel like I am successful now. I do feel that I moved. It was a super hard path for me. I'm not even going to lie. It was really hard. It was tough. Mm-hmm. I do feel like I'm successful in a lot of different ways. I still have a long way to go, and I have a lot more I have 2 classes left of school, and then I'll be successful.
Yay. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, I have one more question.
Okay.
And
Why do
this
you always
one,
freak me out, man? You're like saying something. I feel like it's like a really
no,
scared.
this one is easy. I promise this one is easy. It's not gonna hurt.
Okay.
And you don't even have to think. It's just the first word that
All
comes
right.
to your head.
Okay.
When you think about where you are today, what's the first word that pops in?
Humility.
There you go. That's perfect.
All right.
So with
What about
that
you?
being-
What
no,
ab-
no, we're not gonna do that.
No.
No.
Okay. All right.
Wait, maybe. Crossroads.
All right.
That's, yeah,
You'll have to tell me about that later.
crossroads.
All right.
That's where I am.
All right.
I hate when people ask me that question.
She's trying to come over to E-Fry Crossroads.
With that being said, thank you everybody for tuning in once again, and hopefully I will see you next month. If you would like to support us and support love, I'm getting notes.
Tell
and
all
I
those
can't
Cape
see
Bretoners.
from
Tell all
here.
those Cape Bretoners to support and to donate.
What she said. And to do the donation stuff, you go to www.lovenovascotia.ca. Our Instagram is love_Nova Scotia, I believe. Our Twitter is at Love Nova Scotia, and our Facebook is Love Nova Scotia as well. And just a reminder that we are at the end of the worst time of the years, because every year it gets worse and worse and worse. Keep your head up, keep pushing, you got this. Things will get better. They may not seem like they will in this very moment, but they will. You are great. You are beautiful. You are loved. You are better than you were an hour ago, and you will continue to do better as the day goes on. Thank you for tuning in, Love Nation, and we will see you next time.
Bye.